biggest lie Wall Street tells us?
That Wall Street's the only way to invest. That's the biggest lie. They let you take all the risks. They let you gamble all your money. They're basically just salespeople in suits. We're told it's 100% return. And yes, that's not 100% return.
So you famously went from being a millionaire to an upside down millionaire with $1 million in debt. And then you made it back to financial freedom.
If you try to retire right now, you better hope you have to die in about 5 or 6 years, because that's when you're going to run out of money.
What if everything you've been taught about money is completely wrong? What if the 401k, the stock market, and traditional retirement planning are actually keeping you trapped in financial mediocrity? Today, I'm sitting down with Chris Miles, the anti-financial advisor, who went from millionaire to upside down millionaire with $1 million in debt, then clawed his way back to financial freedom using strategies that Wall Street doesn't want you to know about. Chris has helped thousands of clients create real cash flow and build lasting wealth without relying on the broken promises of traditional finance. His Money Ripples podcast, which I want everybody right now, it's in the link below, or you can go to Spotify, Apple, type in Money Ripples. That podcast approaches, challenges everything the financial industry teaches. And he's about to expose the biggest lies that are keeping most people trapped in the rat race. This conversation is going to shatter your beliefs about money and show you a completely different path to true financial freedom. Let's dive in. Thanks, Chris, for being on the podcast today.
Hey, man, I'm so excited to be here. I know we're going to have so much fun.
I know you're known as the anti-financial advisor. What do you think? Let's start off with this. What's the biggest lie Wall Street tells us that keeps most people trapped in the rat race?
That Wall Street's the only way to invest. That's the biggest lie, right? Think about it, especially if you're a millennial, you've only seen the stock market go up your entire adult life. The last 16 years, there's only been one down year. And Wall Street loves it. All the financial education today is taught by financial companies. Well, why would financial companies teach you to set it and forget it? Just put it away for the long haul. And if the market goes down, it's okay, buy more because it's on sale. And when the market goes up, keep buying because it's going up. They are like the best marketers because what are they doing? They want you to stash your money with them, so they will always make their guaranteed fees. They let you take all the risks. They let you gamble all your money. They're always going to make money off of you. And then what do? They have their little pawns called financial advisors out there telling you this is what you should be doing. And when they say investing, it's always mutual funds, S&P 500, right? It's index funds and things like that, or it might be insurance, but it's always the same things because they're basically just salespeople in suits. You on that same kind of crap that's helping them. And when you get the experts on the media, they're also lackeys, like the little pawns for those guys too, Merrill Lynch's. And so that's the problem, is all the information is coming from the same source so that you put your money with them rather than you take control of your money so you can create more freedom right now.
That's so good. And I know many people are told, like their 401k, they come into a new job, they sign up, this person talks to them, and they're told this 401k match is free money and 100% return. Can you break down the real math for us? Why isn't that 401k match the golden ticket for a lot of people?
Well, I used to work a corporate job while I was in college, right? I was working full time and I got to my 6-month mark. I was so happy because now I can start getting company benefits. And one of those benefits is the 401k. And I remember that HR representative, she shows up, she sits in the meeting, and she's, okay, guys, you got this 401k now, and it's the best thing ever because you can put money in this and you don't get taxed on it. When you're old, you don't need to spend money anyways, so you're going to get taxed on less. We throw in money, it's free money we give you too. If you stay here for 5 years, you're going to get all that money, right? The problem with that, some companies will still offer 100% match. So what they would tell us is that you're getting 100% rate of return. It's brainless. Why wouldn't you do it? If you were getting 100% return, why wouldn't you do it? What they don't tell you, it's not 100% return. I challenge you to do this. Go find some financial calculator online, like a compounding interest calculator. Put in, say you're saving $10,000 a year. Put 108% return. So you get to take the 100% match plus the 8% average return in the market. Watch what happens in 20 years. You will be richer than Bezos. I can guarantee you nobody's ever gotten on the news or media. This is my secret to creating billions. I save $10,000 a year in my company's 401k, right? Never has anybody ever said that. We're told it's 100% return. And yes, they do match 100%, but it's a one-time hit. That's it.
Right.
Overall, it only adds about 2 to 3% a year. They've surveyed millennials. About 86% of millennials pick what are called target date funds. It says, if you want to retire in 2055, put it here. You want to retire in 2035, put it here. 2060 here. And so everybody's picking these target date funds. But when I looked at the real numbers of those funds compared to the stock market, if you just got the S&P 500, guess what? It underperformed the market by 2.1% over the last 10 years. Plus, they have a minimum fee of 0.75%. Means, at best, you might be getting 3% worse than the stock market. Here's the ironic thing. That 100% match, guess what it does? It adds roughly about a 3% long-term return on your thing. So all that match is doing is make up for the bad performance. You would be better off investing on your own, not getting a company match, doing your own thing. At least you can call the shots versus, hey, this is your little tiny buffet as you get.
Yes.
Here, this is all you got. That's pretty much what you're getting when you get a 401k.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's ever explained that. That is so awesome to understand. We're going to get into how to invest, but I want to paint a macro picture about what's happening. I know you famously went from being a millionaire to an upside down millionaire with 1 million in debt, and then you made it back to financial freedom. What was the single biggest mindset shift? How did you navigate that crisis? Can you go a little bit into the crisis? How did you come out stronger?
Yeah, how'd you become a total loser?
Loser to winner.
But it's true. So give you some backstory. Like when I came out of college, and actually I was in the middle of college, I wanted to become a business consultant. But I realized quickly that I should probably have real life business experience and not just get an MBA. So I took a sabbatical from college. I said, let's take a year off, find some business to start, and gain a little extra experience so it looks good on my resume. I was looking around for a few months, enjoying my time off from college. I had a friend that said, hey, I just got hired with this financial firm. I said, that sounds interesting. Worst case, I'd learn about how to invest money. But even if I don't learn anything about business, at least I learned that. I eventually got interviewed and got hired, not knowing they take anybody off the street as long as you can pass a test with 70% and not have robbed a bank. So that's pretty much the requirement for being a financial advisor. So I did it because I was good at taking tests, although I did take it a few times to get to that 70% without studying. I found out I have to study sometimes. So I did that. I became a financial advisor and enjoyed being an entrepreneur so much, I actually dropped out of college and never finished my degree. And as I was going down that path after 4 years, I sat down with my dad. My dad had reached out. He says, Chris, when are you going to advise me? Now, understand, my dad was a penny pinching saver. He says frugal. We all say cheap, right? And anyways, I figured, okay, this should be good. I should definitely be able to help my dad finally. And as I looked at his finances, I said, Dad, you're 61 years old. I noticed you've paid off your house. You're 100% debt free. You've got money you've been stuffing into your company's 401k for the last few decades. I'm like, but here's the deal, Dad. If you try to retire right now, you better hope you have to die in about 5 or 6 years because that's when you're going to run out of money. He said, well, that's not what I wanted to hear. What do? I don't know. Save more? Work until you're 70? It's just not enough. And that bothered me because remember, I was selling the dream. I started being a financial advisor when I was like 24 years old. I was telling people like, hey, this is the thing you should be doing. And you just keep putting money away. I was teaching people to do that. Set it and forget it. Put it away. Put it in the stock market. It's the best thing ever. All that stuff I was teaching. And here's my dad who was living proof that it didn't work. The month later, I'm talking with a friend of mine. I had hired him to be a financial advisor, but then he quit to go do real estate investing. He's asking me, Chris, how many of your clients are financially free where they don't worry about money? Well, I said even the retired ones worry about outliving their money. How about this? How many of you guys as financial advisors are financially free, not off the commissions, but actually doing these investments? And I really thought about it honestly. There's about 100 people in our office, including guys that have been working there since the 1970s. These are guys like already at retirement age, hustling as financial advisors, and they couldn't retire either. So I said, none. There's your problem, Chris. I took the red pill. I started seeing things like alternative investments, real estate investing, and investing in businesses, things that are outside of Wall Street. Main Street investing is what it is. And I started looking at that and I realized there's guys in their 20s and 30s that were like financially free, millionaires, multimillionaires even. And I'm like, man, that's way better than these broke financial advisors I've been working with for years. So I quit. I vowed never to teach about money again. I said I'll just be a mortgage broker and I'll teach ballroom dancing on the side. I used to be one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers. So I was like, I'll just teach ballroom dancing and do some mortgages. And I started doing more passive hands-off investing. I could lend my money to real estate investors and get paid double-digit returns contractually. I could buy a rental with very little money down. And if there's appreciation, I make hundreds of percent that I couldn't do in the stock market. And pretty soon that next year, I had enough passive income coming in. I'm 28, almost 29 years old. I didn't have to work anymore. Enough passive income to cover all my family's needs. And that blew my mind. Of course, everybody wanted to know how this 28-year-old kid retired before his parents. Actually, I came out of that to start coaching people in 2007. I got together with some partners, and lo and behold, the recession hits. We had the global financial crisis hitting right when we opened our doors. We were focusing only on real estate investors who were also going broke at that time. So our business was suffering. I cut off streams of income to go all in. And that was another mistake. I'd also put all my money into trying to pay down my mortgage. That was a mistake because then I couldn't get my equity out of my house, even though Dave Ramsey, I couldn't do it anymore, right? And so I'm like stuck. I'm watching the values of my house and everything start tanking. And the next thing I know, I'm about $1 million in debt. I mean, in fact, I was now only $1 million in debt. I was in the hole like $15,000 a month, thinking fast.
'09 was during that financial crisis. Some people, especially if you're younger, you don't realize how bad it was.
Even my oldest is in early 20s, and even they're like, I had no clue you were broke. I'm like, yeah, because you were kids. We're trying to shelter you from that. But what they didn't know is that my wife at that time, she was actually saying, hey, do I need to pack up the kids and move into my sister's basement and let you figure your crap out? Like literally talking about, it was like Cinderella Man. If you ever watched that movie, it was just like that in the Great Depression. I was now on welfare as a guy that was supposed to have it all figured out. And I'm on welfare. My wife is talking about leaving with the kids. Leave me alone. I had collector calls call all the time. Friends stopped calling, but those collector calls came in multiple times a day to the point I stopped answering my phone. I couldn't handle it. Like it was a horrible place to be. And it was during that time, I remember my business was teach people how to get out of the rat race. And here I was back in it. I can't teach something I don't do. I'm just not a good BSer. That's why I don't play poker. I just can't do that. So I started teaching people how to do what I was doing, which was how to find money, how to get resourceful. Because I wasn't telling them, hey, I'm flat broke. Can you pay me? Because I will not be able to take care of my family and feed my family this month if you don't. I wasn't saying that out loud, but I would tell people, like, here's the things that I know how to do. They're like, oh, that's so great. But honestly, Chris, I would love to hire you. I just don't have the money. I bet you I could find the money. So I would tell them, if I can help you find the money, will you pay me? I teach creative ways to pay off debt, ways to free up money in taxes as business owners and things like that, or even ways to track money and find like where there's little money leaks. And the next thing you know, like I started creating a whole business system out of it. We're freeing up on average like $2,800 a month, about $34,000 a year with people. And it brought new life in our business where at the end of 2009, we started pulling out of that spiral to bankruptcy. And that's what really started to turn my own personal life around too, because now there's businesses coming out of it. Now I can actually pay my bills. I had foreclosed on my house by that point. I was living in a rental that was a quarter of the payment I used to have on my mortgage. I was trying to dig out of that hole. Even though I had to start a new business in 2012, Money Ripples, with the podcast and everything. By the end of 2016, I got to the point where I'd paid off the debt, building some capital again, so that I can invest in cash flowing assets. And I had enough passive income to be financially free, where I didn't have to keep working. I call it work optional, right? Because I hate people talking about retirement because it sounds horrible. It's no, like I just want to get to the point where I work because I want to, not because I have to. I don't have to pay my bills with my job or my work or my business. I'm just doing it because I love it. And that's how I won my time. And that's really what we help people do nowadays.
That's an amazing story. And I want to get into the practical side of things. Yeah, I know the 4% retirement rule is this cornerstone of traditional planning. And I know you argue that it's outdated and dangerous. For someone hoping to retire early, what's the real safe withdrawal rate? Maybe we answer that and then we'll get into the alternative strategies.
In the stock market, they talk about the 4% rule, and they base that on, the guy did a model from 1926 to 1976. So understand this model is like 50 freaking years old, right? And he said, if you had money in the market during that period of time, you should be able to pull out 4% a year and not run out of money before you die. Few problems with this. One, in the last now 50 years since 1976, we live longer, right? That's number one. So the money needs to last longer than it did back then. Inflation is higher than it was between 1926 and 1976, because 1974 is when Nixon took us off the gold standard. And that's when inflation started hockey sticking up. You heard about like people lining up at the gas stations and all that kind of stuff, right? Like it was total chaos because now our money was backed by debt, not by gold. So things have changed. Inflation is higher, people live longer. That 4% rule is completely antiquated, right? There are plenty of institutions out there that do the same studies, and they're all right around 3%. But it's 3% if you're in your 60s, right? So if you want to do 4%, you got to wait till your 70s to be able to retire to live on 4% and not worry about running out of money. What I hate, though, is there's this whole FIRE movement, financially independent, retire early, very popular among millennials right now. Funny, I actually got accepted into the Facebook group for the FIRE movement, but then I found out they were teaching all these people, they're like, oh yeah, you get $1 million saved up, you can live on 4%, that's $40,000 a year. So they would teach all these people, they're like, hey, just live cheap, save up as much as you can in the stock market and these index funds. Eventually you'll have enough. Well, here's the problem with that. If you're in your 30s or 40s and try that model, you run out of money and live on 3%. It's actually a 2% rule if you're trying to do FIRE. I try to tell them that. They kicked me out of the group, even though I was the one that legitimately became FIRE twice. And I'm like, guys, this doesn't work. That's wrong. They're like, no, don't tell us that. I even had another friend. He's 30, 31 years old now. He's got a couple of young kids. He works with real estate investors. He doesn't do real estate. He puts all of his money in the stock market, all in S&P 500 index. And like, I've got over $1 million saved up now. I'm actually financially independent now. I was like, really? That's awesome. Saving $1 million by the time you're 30 years old is pretty incredible. That's a little feat. I was like, dude, that's awesome. But if you did that all in the market, you have to live on 2%. Does that mean you can live on 20,000 a year? He said, no, I based on living on a little over 40,000 a year. I'm like, oh, then you got to double the money. He's like, I have to have double now? I'm like, yeah, you have to have over double. Sorry to rain on your parade, but that's just the truth. He kept fighting me on it. I was like, dude, like I've been teaching about money since you were in kindergarten. Okay. So you can try to argue with me all you want. The assumptions you think that the market does 12+% returns is false. Last 30 years has been like 8.4%. That's the highest I've seen it in the last few decades because we've had such a large run up of the stock market in the last 16 years.
Yeah. And then also how many people are actually debt free, whether it's student loans or whatever it may be. Living on $4,000, that doesn't work. Not when inflation's like it is. It's $500-600 every time you go to Costco. You go out there, it's 120. Living on $4,000, I don't know where that number even came from.
Yeah, there's people that can do it. I've seen people that are like either they don't have kids or maybe they have younger kids or people that are older, often divorced, like they can do that too. Occasionally you'll see that, or it depends on what state they live in. $4,000 a month, you're almost homeless. $4,000 a month, not a bad lifestyle. So it just depends. People can do it, but it's not like you're gonna be living fat and happy on $4,000. Like most people I talk to, usually they want at least $10,000 a month. I remember 20 plus years ago when I was trying to be financially free, I was hoping to have $5,000 a month. That was my plan, do that in my 40s, and then realize, oh, it's actually easier than what I thought it was, depending on what vehicle you're using to create that financial freedom.
It's also $1 million, what it's worth now compared to what it was worth even just 10 years ago. Oh, you have a big bucket and there's $1 million in there. It's leaking every day.
$5,000 a month in the early 2000s is way different than $5,000 a month today. I was thinking it was a posh lifestyle. I'm so glad I didn't get stuck on that $5,000 a month type of lifestyle. It's not broke, but it's definitely not financially prosperous.
Yeah, I know you emphasize, and I want people to really understand this. Let's stay on this because this was such a shift when I was doing research on your podcast. You emphasize cash flow over net worth. If people can grab that mind shift and understand, because you have entrepreneurs out there, the high income earners, they're like, net worth is I have $1 million or I have 2 million or whatever it may be, but they don't understand cash flow and what that actually means for true financial freedom. Can you unlock the cash flow mindset?
You got guys like Caleb Hammer, Ramit Sethi, Dave Ramsey, all these guys. They're always trying to tell you that net worth is the key. Get debt free, save up lots of money, and then you'll be happy. Mm-hmm. But the reality, and again, this is for me working with literally like thousands of couples, right, over the years. And I will tell you from personal experience, net worth is pretty much worth less to people. Mm-hmm. I've had so many people that are shocked. They could have a $2 or $3 million net worth and still feel broke. They're like, I can't quit yet. I still have to keep working because just because I have this net worth doesn't mean it creates income for me.
Right.
That's the real freedom. The whole reason you've been sold on net worth, becoming a multimillionaire or whatever, is because you were sold that if you have this much net worth, they'll create some kind of income for you. But again, it's a 2 or 3% rule, depending on how old you are. The younger you are, the less it is. And it's all based on the stock market. That's the big problem. I actually just had a video I'm doing a React video to because this guy has $1.7 million saved up in his 60s, calls up the Dave Ramsey show. He's like, hey, we've got all this money saved up. We're debt free, but man, I don't feel like a millionaire. And Ramsey told him, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to teach you how to spend money now. In decades being a cheapskate, now you're going to learn how to spend money. You're going to spend $8,000 on a cruise with your wife. It's a drop in the bucket compared to your net worth. It's not going to do anything to you. You thought becoming a millionaire was the goal. But once he got there, it's like, I don't feel like a millionaire. That's the problem. And I've had so many people that are like the poster children for the Dave Ramsey show come talk to me later and say, okay, we've got all this net worth, but this net worth is doing nothing. Like I have no income coming from that net worth. How am I going to stop working? Even if I have a great paying job or business, how can I stop? And that's the key. How do you take that net worth and turn it into income? What shocks most people is they don't have to have that high of a net worth to create better income because they don't have to worry about the 2 or 3% rule anymore.
Yeah, that's so good. And there's this scarcity and abundancy mindset. You've experienced both, but you went and found money. Like there's trillions of dollars out there. It's floating or energy happening constantly. So what is it like when you look at that, like your mindset and getting away from the scarcity mindset? How did you do that? It has to be fearful when everything's tanking around you.
Yeah, I had to get away from all the financial advisors to finally break that scarcity mindset. I didn't realize at the time, I didn't know what a scarcity mindset was. I thought things were a zero-sum game. There had to be a winner and a loser, right? As a financial advisor, if I wanted to be a good person, I would have to lose out on the commissions or whatever I'm earning on those clients so that my clients would win. But vice versa, if I want to win for my family, I'd have to somehow screw my clients over. And that's not true. It is for a lot of people, but it's not the way that business really works. Business works when you're creating value for people. How do you solve problems, serve people in such a way? This is true even in your job. If you go to your boss and say, listen, what can I do to serve you or the company that would earn me a raise? Entitlement mentality. If you're like, what can I do to earn a raise? How can I create value for you? How can I do more for you and the company that you would say, I got to give this guy a raise or this woman a raise? That's the real question to be asking. And when I started asking questions like that were more abundantly minded versus scarcity minded, stopped realizing it was more about a win-win than a win-lose transaction. There are no limits. From a spiritual perspective, when's the last time God said, sorry, I can't afford to make this universe. Sorry, I can't afford my bills this month. He doesn't worry about that stuff because he knows there's abundance. It's about how you manage it, how you steward over the resources you have. That's what it really is. When I was broke, even when we got broker than broke, I was about $1 million in debt, scarcity even today, even though I'm financially independent, still is a struggle. There's always scarcity moments. It's just human nature that you're going to battle scarcity.
Right.
The real test is how quickly can you flip the script? For example, let's just say you think, oh, man, there's just not enough good jobs out there. Oh, there's just not enough good men out there. There's plenty of jobs, plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of men or women available out there, right? It's whatever you put your focus on and you will find. Your mind will prove itself subconsciously.
Right.
So if you believe that there's only so much money out there and you're being stepped on or squashed, you will always find evidence that's truth. You will always find that evidence. But if you're like, listen, I bet you there's so much opportunity out there, I can't even see it all. There's an abundance of opportunity. And you, just by acknowledging that and start to accept it, you'll start to find out like it's everywhere, right? That's why it's important to do gratitude. When I was broke, that's one of the first things I do in the morning is I would be grateful for at least something. Even if at least I'm alive, at least I'm breathing, at least I have the option to go to work and try to do something about this. I'll tell you, those collector calls, I was getting those all the time. After a while, I said, you know what? I'm going to flip the script on this. So when they would call, I'd answer the phone. I was like, hey, how's it going? They're like, good. We're calling to collect on a debt. I'm like, yeah, I know. Great. Will you pay it? Not today. Okay. When are you going to pay it? No clue. If you don't pay it, we're going to call back. I'm like, I hope so, because my friends stopped calling, but I appreciate your calls. We're going to call back again. I hope so. Talk to you later. Well, I'll pay you. Don't worry. Someday. I just don't know when, but I'll pay you. They're like, okay. Click. And I would start calling I love you calls. It was just like, hey, they're checking in on me. They want to know if I'm okay. They want to get paid, obviously, but at least they're checking in on me. And friends were checking. I would flip the script on that, and it actually changed the tune to the point where it didn't feel so unbearable. It wasn't like my finances got better. Then I changed my attitude. That's wrong. It's not a have, do, be thing where you have to have it. So then you start doing it and you become happy. No, you got to be that way first. You got to be abundant to then start doing abundant things. And then you start to have more abundance. The secret, right? So again, I would try to get my body moving. I would do stuff to read good people's voice in my head. It's better now with these podcasts. You can literally listen to amazing people, learn amazing things, get their voices in your head versus the scarcity monster in your head. You can start to replace those words and do it for free. How awesome of a world are we in now where you don't even have to go buy a book anymore? It's so much easier now to get that information than to create more abundance.
Yeah. And then also on top of it, like you used to have to buy the CDs or the EVDs or whatever. Now we got video, podcast, audios. And speaking of podcasts, Money Ripples, you could sit there if you're in debt and you need to rechange your mind and have something that's positive in your life, then download Chris's podcast. You've been doing it. You told me 11 years podcasting total, right? But this podcast, how long have you been doing it for?
This podcast has been 11 years, but I've been doing it for 17 years almost.
That's crazy. I want to get into, if they haven't listened to your podcast, some things that you talk about on your podcast. And one is finding hidden cash. and freeing up cash. Can you share one secret that listeners can implement immediately where they could find this hidden cash in their lives or businesses?
The first step is actually tracking your money. You look at how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and where it's going to. Do something like that where you actually start to track it. Here, everybody talks about budgets, right? I think budget's a piece of crap. For one, everybody creates budgets and they have no clue how much they were spending in the first place. They just aren't in reality yet. So the first step, even before you worry about budgets, and I don't like budgets, I call it spending plan, because money is meant to be spent, even if it spends into savings. You got to give it a job, right? Every time you do it, you got to start tracking it. And I would track it for at least 6 to 12 months of data before you even try to create that spending plan. Here's how much I can be spending or should be spending. That's what I had to do. That's how I found I was in the hole 15, 16 grand in the month. And I was watching my bank balance disappear. I was watching credit card balances. Once I started to really track it, that's when the reality set in. And that's when you can actually have power. That's when you can actually do something about it. So start doing that. Just start tracking your money. I would say you can do it weekly. That's ideal. Worst case, every 2 weeks. But start tracking it so you can start making adjustments along the way. And I'll tell you, hands down, every time somebody started to track their money, they usually free up at least $500 a month.
Yeah.
And without sacrificing the lifestyle, they find more of those money leaks.
Yeah, it's so good. It's clarity. And then on top of that, one of the things that I talk to people a lot is having the right attitude. I've talked to people and they'll open their bank app 5, 6 times a day or whatever app they have. And I'm like, how do you feel before you open it? And they're like, I get nervous. I don't know what the number is. I had one guy, I get like cold, clammy hands before I open my bank app. And I'm like, why? And I don't know if it's going to be negative or not. And I'm like, obviously you're living this scarcity mentality. Even if you don't have any money, you can change your attitude towards the money and then put it to work. Like every dollar needs a job.
That comes off that scarcity, that trauma. I had so many experiences where my debit card would decline at the grocery store. And you're trying to find out what it is. And it's so embarrassing and humiliating. The people in line are waiting like, what's going on? This guy must be broke. Something's wrong here. And still, like I was starting to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I was still scared. What if it doesn't go through? And I'll tell you, the hardest thing, it's so easy for me to teach the strategies. I teach people, hey, you can lend out your money to real estate investors and make 10, 12% a year coming in on a monthly or quarterly basis. That's easy. The hard part is teaching the mindset so that they don't sabotage their own results, right?
Yeah, yes. That's so good. I see that over and over again. I don't know if you've heard of a guy by the name of Gay Hendricks. He has a book called ULP or Upper Limit Problem. When things get too good, the thermostat gets too high, we have to self-sabotage to bring everything back down to a comfortable light. A lot of people didn't even realize that. If you can get Monarch or whatever it may be, open that up.
But now it's more like Rocket or Monarch. You look up those ones.
Yeah, I want to get into the investment side of things for the few minutes we have left. I know you advocate for real estate and alternative investments as key to passive income. What's one common passive income lie, especially in real estate, where new investors fall for?
Yeah, the passive income lie is that it's never passive. It's true because it's become bastardized a little bit, right? So many people talk about passive income and then you start this new Amazon business. Well, that's not passive. That's an active thing. Or, hey, you can do short-term rentals, Airbnbs. Not passive, right? So everybody talks about passive income. It's never passive. So people become jaded and they should be. When I talk about passive income, truly hands-off investing. Like you're not the one investing. It also doesn't mean buying that real estate property down the street. Going out east, Midwest, the Southeast, I can buy way better deals on rentals if I want to do a rental. So that's the thing that people think of. They're like, oh, I got to go buy this real estate property in my backyard. I got to be the property manager, deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. And you literally have property managers take care of properties for me across the country in different places where I've never even been. I can have them do that. I can lend out my money to real estate investors and get paid double-digit returns and get that money back. I can go do oil and gas investments. I'm going to pay more at the gas pump. I might as well make some money off of it, right? Yes. I've got money in raw land where I have people buying and selling raw land. They'll buy it at wholesale, sell it for 3 times the value, sell it to those people with interest. If I had $500,000 that's now turned into almost $13,000 a month. Most people like to make $13,000 a month. Franchises, you can have car wash businesses, but you have to do it yourself. You can pull your money with other investors and be, again, hands off. If you're going to do a business, do something you love, passionate about. From an investment standpoint, there are so many things that financial advisors will never tell you about because either they don't know about it, they don't get paid to tell you about it. They're not even legally allowed to offer it. That's the other problem I have with some of my friends that are still financial advisors. Even if they love certain investments, they can't recommend them to clients because they're not allowed to sell it to you. That's the thing you got to be aware is that the reason why people are like, why haven't I heard all this stuff? There's literally tens of millions of us doing these same investments that I'm talking about here, but there's no financial advisors per se. They're saying like, here, let's offer this kind of thing to you. A lot of times it's illegal.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, especially like the oil and gas, is tax-free, and there's huge tax benefits with it. But I want to focus on, I watched a podcast of the day for 2 hours, and it was talking about, and we have a lot of millennial leaders on the episodes, and I was listening to what they were saying, and then I've pulled demographics on our podcast and our communities, and it's so interesting. It's like 30s to 35-year-old both work in the home, have one or two or three dogs, no kids, and they both have a lot of debt with degrees. They're working. One may be a VP, the other in a small business. They have good income, but so much debt that they cannot possibly even think about buying a house. So that creates resentment. If you were going to talk to that couple, what are some things that they could do right now that would begin to change the trajectory of at least getting a feeling of hope?
Yeah, definitely get into what got them to where they are, because I've got 8 kids, blended family of 8. Kids are up there,
Yeah.
I don't have high debt. So when I see people like that, I have to ask why. What happened? Is it because you're not tracking your money because you've had a nice lifestyle? Are you eating out constantly, right? Like that's common, eating out. Even if you go to healthy restaurants, they're not really that healthy. Careful of that too, just from another standpoint. But I would say, let's get to the why. Now, if you have a lot of debt, remember, I was over $1 million in debt myself. I get it. I don't judge you at all because let's be honest, you could judge me way harsher than I could judge you. Let's talk about it. Most of the time, it's not because they can't get a home because of debt. Sometimes it's just because they're too scared based on the situation. I'm talking more from those that might be more saver mentality versus the spender mentality. Because like, for example, I have so many people, especially if they're doctors and dentists, they'll have massive amounts of student loan debt. They're like, I got to pay this off. It's killing me. And because they're looking at the payment and they're saying like, oh yeah, I'm paying $2,000 a month. But then I look at the balance is $200,000.
Yes.
You're paying $1,000 a month. This is why I created what's called a cash flow index. You can look that up. It's something that we trademarked. I created it when I was in my worst time because I wanted to figure out what's the best debt to pay off. And I would look at it from an ROI standpoint. I created a cash flow index where I divide the balance of the loan by the minimum monthly payment. And I'll get this index. So for example, say you have two $10,000 loans. One's $500 a month. One's $100 a month. If that $10,000 loan is $500 a month, it's a 20.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's $100 a month, it's a 50. That's right. $100 a month, it's 100 there. Now, here's the thing. You want to pay off the lowest index first. If I have $10,000, do I pay off the $500 a month loan or the $100 a month loan? Common sense would say, pay off the $500 a month loan, right? That's the one that's killing you. What's interesting though, is that many people will say, yeah, but the interest rate is lower on that $500 a month. So I should go for the $100 a month, even though it has a higher interest rate. Ignore the interest rate. As a tiebreaker, great, but focus on the index. Pay the lowest number first. And when I was in that hole, I was trying to attack one loan at a time, not putting extra on a whole bunch of loans, just one at a time. If it's a loan like a car loan where you can only pay it off to finally free up the cash flow, save it. Don't put extra payments on that monthly payment. You're going to feel depressed. So save up credit cards, same thing. There's so many credit cards that are like 0% credit cards that you did balance transfer. And then you find out, oh, it's got the highest payment ratio. Let's pay that off first, even though it's 0% versus this other one's at 19%. So those are the kind of things. And you'll find out student loans and mortgages, the time that most people are freaking out because they have the higher payments, they have a much higher balance. And they're often the ones that aren't creating a lot of stress. If I had $200,000 and yeah, it might be $2,000 a month I'm paying on a student loan, but it's only a 6% rate. Do real estate deals for 10 to 20% a year. Why not I just take that $200,000, invest in that, and then let my investments pay off that debt? Then just slaving away, just trying to chip away at that loan slowly over time, and then not get depressed about it either. That's the thing, is it's always contextual, right? Even if you have debt, it may not be as bad as you think. There might be options, things we could be doing. Improving your credit score so you can buy that house is the best investment you can do right now, that maybe over time can actually build up some extra wealth for you so that you could even pay off those loans later on. So there's a lot of things we could be doing that might be answers you just don't realize.
Yeah, and there's so many alternatives to that too. Some people have bought duplexes and live in one of them. Last question. You managed to run Money Ripples. You've helped thousands of clients in 8 kids. And you've done it by working like 20 to 30 hours a week. What's the secret? What's the secret to work-life balance? How do you do that and have so much freedom?
This help having 50,000 a month of passive income. I first discovered this actually when I was going through a divorce back in 2015. I was working over 50 hours a week. I was slaving away. I was doing it for my family. I still had time for family. I was definitely exhausted. After I was going through the divorce, I realized in my own business, especially as a business owner, I was at a point where I was only working 5 hours a week. But I noticed my business never really died. That brought something to light for me. I realized I created my own prison. I created that I'd have to work X number of hours because I didn't feel worthy. I had to prove my worth. And so I had to keep working even on things that weren't productive. I read a book called The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. Talks about those prize-winning pumpkins. The key to growing those humongous pumpkins is you cut off all the small pumpkins so that the vine feeds just one pumpkin. And that's the key is what's my one pumpkin? What's the most important activity, the most important thing I could be doing? In my own business at that time, once I was kind of emotionally depressed and really looking at everything, I was like, wow, I'm going speaking on stages and doing this and that. But how much money did I make doing that? Oh, like none. But I have my podcast and people reach out to me on my podcast. I don't even talk about what I do. People are like, I don't even know what you're selling, but I want to buy it. So I started cutting out all these extra busy activities I was doing and just said, why don't I just focus on my podcast? Right. And what if I start focusing on the clients I don't like, instead focus on the clients that were my absolute ideal clients, the people I love the most? I put that focus there. And next thing you know, my ideal clients started showing up out of the woodworks, right? They started showing up out of nowhere, it seemed. And what was crazy is not only did I free up all these expenses and time, but then I also doubled my revenue that next year just because I focused on what's really working. What's the best activity to do? That Pareto's principle, the 80-20 principle, where 80% of my business come from. Focus on that and you keep revisiting that over and over in your life. Start to discover a lot of things you're doing is just not productive work.
Yeah, be ruthless at saying no. Those are so good. The pumpkin thing is so awesome. I love that. So everyone listening, Chris's Money Ripples podcast, all the resources, we're going to have those linked below. Chris, I want to thank you for being the voice of reason in a world full of financial myths. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with besides the podcast? Do you have a website?
We do. Everything's moneyripples.com. You can follow us any of those places.
Thank you.
The Work Optional Blueprint coming out in September.
So we'll have to have you back on and go through the book. That would be awesome.
For sure.